Hey, what's good, all? How's it going? And welcome back to Unleashing. This is episode 51.
Yeah.
The big 5-1. We had our big 50th episode last week, and 1 year anniversary. Before we dive into what this episode's about and everything, of course, me, as you can't see me this week because we're doing an audio-only version, my name's of course, Jamie, and then we got on the other end of the mic, good old Ryan.
Hello, hello.
So before we dive in, the first thing I want to go and say is we had our contest last week. The contest involved telling us your top 3 non-nerdy films, and you had to mention what our number 1 non-nerdy film is. Of course, only one person entered, so he's the automatic winner. So that's Spidey Seiler is his name. And so congratulations. What you need to do is shoot me a message on the back end through the DMs on YouTube and let me know and give me your information, and I will get you over that $20 gift card. His guess was Pulp Fiction for yours and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves for mine, which 100% correct. And then his top 3 non-nerdy films, which none of these 3 we mentioned, which are all great. But American Beauty.
Great movie.
Fight Club.
Ooh, even better
movie. Yeah. And Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, excellent choices there, Spider Seiler.
Yeah, those are awesome choices. So yeah, congratulations. So yeah, shoot me that message on the DMs and let me know your contact information there, mainly just your email, so I can send it right through Amazon. The power of Amazon in sending a digital gift card. So this week, though, we are talking comic book crossovers. Could be any type of crossover. So, I mean, we've had them multiple. We've had them as large as DC and Marvel crossover to, smaller ones, which it's not really small, but they're inter-crossover ones, as in, like, we just recently had the Justice League and Suicide Squad at Inhumans X-Men. So, or IVX, whichever way you want to go about it.
Either way is factually accurate.
Yeah, exactly. Don't want to piss off some of the nerds out there. They'll be like, it's IVX.
The cover says IVX. Sorry, dude, I didn't read IVX.
I went by Inhumans versus X-Men. Shit happens.
Yeah.
So that's the way I go. So, anyways, so crossover comics. I didn't do a whole hell of a lot of research on it because there's so many that's been out there. But it seems like right now, that's kind of like the trend in comics is massive crossovers.
Yep.
Stuff you wouldn't expect. But I know my personal first take on crossover comics was back in, was it the 90s that the DC and Marvel did it, and that was I'm looking at one right here, right now, and that's the Batman vs. Hulk. I've got that one that's hanging on my wall as one of the comics on there, and then there was a Wolverine and I can't remember who.
Well, if you're talking about the Marvel versus DC or the DC versus Marvel miniseries from '96 that led to Amalgam, it was Superman versus Hulk, it was Batman versus Captain America, it was Wolverine versus Lobo, it was Thor versus someone, I don't remember, I'm drawing a blank. Captain Marvel maybe, Thor versus Green Lantern perhaps. Mm-hmm. And then Wolverine versus Lobo.
Yeah, no, this is actually a different, team up that they did.
Right on.
Because, it's Batman and Hulk, and it's Wolverine was it? There's Superman and Spider-Man, it looks like.
Oh, okay.
I should have brought up a list. I mean, this is actually taking it all the way back to the Golden Age.
Are you talking about the ones where it was like the heroes teamed up? Where it was like...
No, it's a verse.
Oh.
It is a verse. This is Hulk verse Batman.
Oh, interesting.
So it's been a long time since I've read the comics, so I really can't dive into it and, talk too much about it. But yeah, it was Hulk versus Batman, which was very, very interesting combination. I'm trying to find when that actually dropped. I think that was it was 95. Oh, it was originally in 81. It was a reprint.
Oh, okay.
So the one I have is a reprint.
Oh, very cool.
But that's got a bunch of them. These are reprints from older ones. So it's got Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man. Wow, Batman Judge Dredd. Darkseid versus Galactus.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
I might have to look into that and read that. I don't see the Wolverine one that I have. I think it's Wolverine that I have. I think it was Wolverine and like Conan or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah. I should have pulled it out so I had it there to talk about, but I didn't even think about that. So, I mean, but those are some of the older ones that we've, seen and whatnot. What's the series that you were talking about where, was that Team Up or was that?
Yeah, so in the mid-90s, it was actually April of 96, so 21 years ago this month? God, that makes me feel really old. Because I was 11 years old in 96 when it came out, and I remember collecting them. It was a 3-issue, or was it a 4-issue? It was a 4-issue miniseries that they did that was called DC versus Marvel, and they got two, pretty well-known writers at the time, Ron Mars and Peter David. I'm a big Peter David fan for his work on X Factor and everything, obviously. Yeah. But the two of them got together and they wrote this 4-issue miniseries that was called DC versus Marvel, and the concept here was that the entire DC universe encompassed the body of this one cosmic being, and his twin brother his body was encompassed by the entire Marvel universe. So it was, separate but equal kind of a thing. And for some reason, they've been asleep for, millennia, and they both wake up and they become aware of the other. And so in order to determine who's going to survive, they actually make the heroes from each universe fight one another. And so throughout the series, there were 11 battles total. There were 6 that were actually predetermined by the writing staff and everything, 3 going to DC, 3 going to Marvel. And then the other 5 battles, they actually let people vote on, which was kind of neat. So readers actually got to vote who would win in these last 5 fights. And in those 5 fights, 2 of the DC heroes won and 3 of the Marvel heroes won. And what happened is during these fights, a character from both DC and Marvel became aware of what was going on. So Spectre for DC and the Living Tribunal for Marvel became like self-aware of what was happening, and they were able to team up with this dude named Axis, or Access, and the 3 of them were able to pretty much convince the 2 cosmic entity brothers to allow these universes to continue separately. But before they came to that conclusion, what happened is they actually merged together. And so for a while, you had Marvel and DC each published one set in 96, one set in 97. They each published 6 issues each of what's called Amalgam comics. And they were actually kind of cool. It took the logo for Marvel Comics, which is the big M, and then it has the DC symbol, which at that time at least was like the little like circle with the 4 stars, and it said DC. So what they did is they took an A and they used the Marvel font, and then they put little stars around it in a circle. So it was like they merged both of the logos together. It was really cool.
That's pretty sick.
And then,
I like that.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then each company published, 6 Amalgam comics in each one. And they had, some pretty sweet titles that I really liked.
Okay.
Obviously the ones that I liked were, the X-Men related titles and everything, which were pretty cool. But like they had Justice League, but it was called, and it merged with the Avengers. So instead of the Justice League of America or like whatever, or anything like that, it was called the Judgment League Avengers.
Huh.
But they had a spin-off series called JLX. And what it did is it entailed that mutants, which in Amalgam universe were called metamutants, they were outed. And it turns out that, about half the team of the JLA were made up of mutants. And so they split off and everything. And it was really cool because it was, Superman merged with Captain America to create Super Soldier. And, Batman merged with Wolverine to create Dark Claw. And then Storm and Wonder Woman merged together, and she was just called Amazon. And then they had all kinds of really cool stuff. Green Lantern and Iron Man merged together to become Iron Lantern and stuff. It was just a lot of fun. I'm sure it was just a publicity stunt. This was the mid-'90s, so that like the artist boom had just died, and both Marvel and DC were losing these really talented artists left and right because they were going to places like Wildstorm and Image Comics and everything. So they needed to kind of team up and something to keep the fans coming back and everything. But it was a lot of fun. They even released a trading card series, and my favorite thing about the trading cards was you got to read the back of the card, and it would have a description of the character, and it would give their backstory, and it would reference like this old series from DC, and it would be giving you this, play-by-play of this event. But then what they did is they would throw in like the Marvel side twist. It was really cool. And they had like their biggest crossover was called the Secret Crisis of the Infinity Hour, which was of course Secret War and Infinity War, and then Crisis on Infinite Earths and Zero Hour, because those were the two, Marvel and DC respectively. It was really cool, and a lot of the artwork is actually pretty good. Like there was some good artwork and everything. It was a lot of fun. That was like one of my favorite crossovers.
It sounds like it. I might actually have to look into it and read it, because that definitely sounds real interesting.
It's definitely worth it. I mean, there's 24 comics altogether, because like I said, each company released 6, and they did it twice. So there's 12 the first wave, 12 the second wave, and they call it the Amalgam Age of Comics, and then the second wave is called the Return to the Amalgam Age of Comics and everything. But, I mean, all 24 of the issues are pretty much standalone issues, which is also really cool. Like, you don't have to read all of them. You just read whichever ones you want. Like, they were just kind of set up, like, as origin issues and stuff. So it was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun.
Nice. Oh, excuse me. And I've been looking, I've been listening to you talk about that at the crossover ones, and it wasn't a Wolverine one. It was just lost it.
Daredevil?
The Uncanny X-Men and the New Teen Titans.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, that they did. So, which is an interesting combination, but like I said, it's been so long since I've read that. I mean, I got them back in the 90s when they came out, so I couldn't tell you enough. I should bust them out and reread them. And they were just cool little fun little things, like I said, the Batman and Hulk is sitting on my wall, because it's just, you don't see that very often. Yeah. Batman and Hulk, but as time has went on, of course, like I said, recently, and I just noticed I'm saying like I said a lot. Yeah.
That's all right.
Anyways, like that's totally cool.
What a dork.
Get the Valley Girl going. right now they've got a lot of them happening, and we've seen a lot of crossover comics, and that's been kind of my big little niche that I've been buying of stuff,
Yeah.
recently. I mean, it started off with last year was the Batman and Turtles crossover, which was amazing. I mean, so good to see that. And when they're pulling this crossover over, it's going from one universe to another. So they're bringing all the different enemies that they've had. Anyone from like the Joker to the Shredder, and stuff like that. So they're getting them all involved, even all their different big enemies, and it's pretty sweet what they're doing with it. And then of course they continued on, well, not really continued it on, but they did another Batman and Turtles based off the animated cartoons, with the Batman and of course the current running Turtles cartoon that's going on right now. And it's been good. I think it's issue 5 right now, I believe.
Oh, nice.
That they're at. So they're almost done 5 of 6. So, but we've read through all kinds of ones. I mean, I have a lot of the other ones, where you dive into Star Trek and the Green Lanterns, which is an interesting combination. And they did this one right, because they originally came out last year with it. And I didn't read it last year, and I wish I would have, but I ended up picking up all 6 issues from the original series. And then they actually continued it on. And they're treating it as like part 2 of the series. So it was successful enough where they're like, okay, let's do this and let's continue it on. And it's really interesting because it's showing the Green Lanterns have went into the universe of Star Trek, and it's the current movie Star Trek universe.
So
which is awesome.
So the Abrams reboot series. Okay.
Yes. So we're meeting the Captain Kirk. Chris Pines. It's Chris Pines in there. You've got even Spock, and then of course we have Khan. Benedict. It's his face in there. It's pretty badass. But it's showing a lot of what happens when they went to the universe of Star Trek, and the Green Lanterns start to lose their powers because they don't have a power source anymore. Their lanterns start to die out. So they got to go to kind of like the center of the universe in a way and find the, because every single universe out there has, or dimension, or however you want to call it, has a Green Lantern power source, is what they're saying. You just have to find it. So it's really neat and interesting. I highly recommend reading it. I mean, it's number 5 just came out yesterday, or today. Sorry. Well, when this is being released, it's yesterday. But I highly recommend reading both the first and second part. It's really fun to read and see how they meet each other, and catch back up, and after the first one, stuff like that, and where it goes. So a couple of other ones that were big. I had He-Man and the Thundercats, which was phenomenal series. And it had all the original Thundercats and original He-Man characters. And spoiler alert, the series is over, so spoils whatever. He-Man, what's his name? His normal form, the Prince. I can't think of his name. But he dies in it.
Wow.
So in the series, they find a way to, fix it and whatnot, but he dies in it, but he turns into He-Man to save himself type thing. But it's really cool. And it shows Skeletor and Mumra combined together into one monster, because Mumra is kind of like an essence in a way. So he, goes into Skeletor's body, and, they create this like super enemy.
Jeez.
So it's pretty badass. It was really cool. So if you like He-Man and Thundercats, it's an amazing series to read. Amazing series.
That sounds like that would suck for the Thundercats then, considering they're like their friend dies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so it was really cool to read, and I mean, like I said, I could go on and on and on. We've got Green Lantern, Planet of the Apes. We have Justice League, Power Rangers, and these are all continuing ones that are going on right now. I'm trying to think of other ones that they have. But then you've got the internal. I mean, if you want to talk about some of the internal one that you've read, because I know you're a big fan of it, the series.
Of which one?
Of the Marvel one that they did that was interesting. The crossover IVX.
Oh, just recently. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I guess, recently. Yeah, you're right. We haven't really talked too much about it on any of the nerds, have we? And it finished a little while ago. God, we really have. You guys let me do a rant on Death of X a little while ago. I liked IVX so much more than I liked Death of X, and it's ironic too because it was the same two writers, Jeff Lemire and Charles Soule, that wrote Death of X, also wrote IVX. But I think it was the fact that the artwork on IVX was top notch versus the artwork on Death of X, which I just thought was not very good. Like, I don't know why those people have jobs in the comic industry, you know? But IVX, the artwork was fantastic. I know that Lionel Yu did number 1 and number 6. I think he did number 1, 2, and then also number 6. So he did 3 of them, but I'm not 100% sure. And I forget who the other guy was that came in and did additional artwork. But both of them were phenomenal, and the coloring was done by the same dude through all 6, and it was really good. So I think just the fact that it had superior artwork helped me enjoy it a lot more, but I really liked the way that they shaped the story. You know, they did definitely set it up as the X-Men are going to war with the Inhumans because the X-Men really at this point have no choice. The Inhumans acted irresponsibly and irrationally regarding the cloud of Terrigen Mist, and it put every mutant on the face of the planet in, mortal danger. So the X-Men really have no choice but to try to force the Inhumans to get rid of the Terrigen Mist clouds, because we know from Death of X that they're not going to just get rid of them. So the X-Men really have no choice. The mutants really have no choice. Of course, it starts with the Beast pretty much telling them, like, yeah, not only is this killing us, but there's really nothing that we can do. It's like, 24 hours away from the point where it's going to saturate the entire atmosphere, and then there's nothing that we can do at that point. But the X-Men say, you know what, we're not going to give up without a fight. So the X-Men put into place battle strategy, and they attack the Inhumans right off the bat, and it's really good. The action sequences in it are really good. The character motivations through the first 5 issues are spot on, exactly what they should be. I loved in the very first issue where Emma Frost and Alison Blair, that's the White Queen and the Dazzler, team up to just take out Black Bolt. That part was freaking sweet. Because Dazzler's power is to take sound and absorb sound and amplify it and turn it into hard light to the point where it's this physical light. And so Black Bolt's power, of course, is that his speaking, the sounds that he makes are explosive. They'll destroy. Even a slightest whisper is enough to destroy an entire building. So he pretty much yells at Dazzler, and she's able to absorb almost all of it and put it right back on him, amplified, and they're able to subdue him, and that part was really cool. And just the rest of the series, we getting to know the Inhumans and kind of learning that they're not necessarily as guilty in this as they may have seemed, especially the important Inhumans like Medusa and Crystal and Gorgon and those guys, Karnak and all them. They're not necessarily as implicit as we would think that they are, and it turns out they're not really bad people. They're just their hands are also being forced by the mutants taking action. I like that we get to see, some of the younger mutants and some of the younger Inhumans who are they go by the name the New Humans. I like that we got to see them kind of team up and go, you know what, like neither side here is right, but at the same time, like neither side here is really wrong. And I liked how they did all of that. I didn't like issue 6. I really did not like the direction they took with Emma Frost. To me, that was completely out of character, and it's like, yeah, based on the fact that Cyclops, spoiler alert, dies in Death of X, yeah, this is the love of her life. Like, of course, there's going to be some irrationality there. Like, that's just a natural thing. It's one of the anger is one of the stages of grief.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. But I feel like they took her too far. They've given us 20 years of Emma Frost becoming a good guy and becoming pretty much the new face of mutant kind and the leader of the mutants and a good leader of mutants. And to turn her into something as petty as revenge and vengeance and turning Sentinels against the Inhumans because she's so angry at what they did to Scott, it was so out of character for me. And it just kind of, it took me right out of the book to the point where I didn't really like how the series ended.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't either. I didn't really like it. I mean, it did end on a sour note. The whole series, though, overall was really, really good.
Oh, yeah.
It was interesting to, read and see how, in a way, X-Men have always been, persecuted by humans and all that. And now all of a sudden they have the Inhumans attacking them, not meaning to, in a sense, to begin with. They were just trying to survive themselves, but then they're trying to survive. X-Men have to survive by getting rid of that Terrigen mist cloud, which is going to completely wipe them all out. And seeing, Beast was kind of caught in the middle. What happened is what happened. But, it was real interesting. I enjoyed it a lot. One of the other big ones that came out this year, which was the Justice League Suicide Squad crossover, which led into the Justice League of America series, which I'm actually reading right now, and it's actually been really, really good. I've liked it. With Batman running it, you got Killer Frost and Lobo, and, you wouldn't expect Lobo to be on a Justice League team.
Right. Yeah, that one's, I think that one turns a lot of heads. They're like, oh, cool, Batman, Killer Frost. It's like kind of a new Outsiders sort of. Lobo?
Yeah. It's like, really? Yeah. It's like, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, no, it was interesting to read that because it centered around a lot about Killer Frost and how, she actually took down a lot of the Justice League members. They were kind of showing her power was a lot more there than what people really realize her power is, on how powerful she is in that sense. But they were, it was kind of throwing a little bit of a twist, showing that, Amanda Waller took control of the Justice League and said, they were trying to get her to, she was trying to get them to work for her and stuff like that. And it's one of those where I really, really recommend reading it because it's interesting, because you've got the Justice League as the major heroes of the DC universe. Suicide Squad are those anti-hero, team where they're kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't type thing, with the chips in their head that could blow off their head at any second.
Right. It's like, get the job done and go back to prison, and maybe we'll let you out sooner. Or don't get the job done, you'll die. Or try to double cross us, and you'll die. So, yeah.
It's one of those things like, sorry, sucks for you. This is the way it is. It was a very, very interesting series. And it's cool to see what they were able to do with it. But as for, crossovers and stuff like that, we've seen all these different crossovers. But they, the comics are great and whatnot, and I've really, really loved them. But what about moving it into different or other aspects of entertainment out there? and taking some of these to that different level. Like, what do you ever see them able to do some of these crossovers?
I think it depends, where, who has the movie rights and stuff. Obviously we have a Marvel universe where that's shared. So yes, the Marvel characters that are in the MCU cross over. I mean, we saw Captain America Civil War. It's a story of Captain America, but it pretty much co-stars all the Avengers, not to mention the Avengers itself. We see it with Batman versus Superman and all that. So, I mean, yeah, we're going to see I feel like within a shared movie universe, that's obligatory. So I don't really think that those, I mean, yeah, they're crossovers, but they don't really count in the sense of what you and I are discussing right now.
Yeah.
We're talking like, will we ever see a live action movie, perhaps, that is a team up of the Ghostbusters and the Turtles or something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's possible. It just kind of depends on who has the rights for what.
Well, it's like they did have in the works, and I don't know if it's still happening. You had and it's not really, well, it's partially nerd related, but it was 21 Drum Street, the crew from there, and Men in Black.
Right.
They were talking about a team up for that, which interesting. I'm not a big fan of them doing something like that, but it could work. It could work, aliens and the Jump Street franchise is all about them going back to school and finding drugs and stuff like that. So aliens and drugs.
Yeah, it could work.
Could work.
It could be a drug that's made out of alien secretions, and so the Men in Black are involved to figure to try. Yeah, I don't mean alien jizz.
Yeah.
I mean just sweat gland or in the adrenal glands or something like that. And it's like a PED that all these high school athletes are using. So obviously the Men in Black are going to be like, we need to find these aliens that are making these drugs, and the Jump Street guys are like, we need to find these kids that are taking these drugs, selling these drugs. So yeah, I mean, they can do it like that. I just thought of one, and then it just went completely out of my mind, and I forgot.
What and we see also with some of these other universes too. We've got Godzilla and King Kong. And possibly the whole kaiju from Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
Possibly being in that same universe. We now have the monster universe from the Universal side, which is, being started off with the Mummy, but that's going to move into Frankenstein and Dracula and, stuff like that. So we got those type of crossovers, which is awesome. I mean, I think it's a great idea to take some of these characters and combine them together. Give it a new twist,
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's fun.
There's the other ones, like taking the Thundercats and He-Man and putting it into a movie.
That's what it was. And I think this one may have already been announced, or at least they're kind of leaning towards it. We know that Hasbro is a toy company. They're the company that makes both Transformers and G.I. Joe. There's been live-action Transformers movies. There's been live-action G.I. Joe movies. We're at the point now where Transformers: The Last Night is coming out, and that's supposed to lead into a larger universe of Transformers movies, where we're going to have, we're going to get an Optimus Prime movie, and we're going to get a Bumblebee movie, and we're going to get movies with these Transformer characters separate. No longer are they going to be, stuck in movies together. We're going to see them branch out, and we're going to get their own stories that are intertwining but separate. We know that they're looking right now at relaunching, or at least rebooting, the G.I. Joe franchise live action.
Yeah,
that's a crossover that I think is a possibility that could be in the works.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, they recently did the comic,
right?
That's the Transformers and G.I. Joe, and it's like a movie thing, kind of like a movie, storyboard in a sense. I mean, it was god awful. It was all over the place. Nothing made sense whatsoever. But it was kind of their attempt, and I think doesn't it come down to Hasbro actually owns both of those licenses outright?
Yeah, and I think that they're both with the same movie studio as well, but I'm not sure.
I believe
Who puts out Transformers? Is it 20th Century Fox?
Is it them or is it Universal?
Oh, it might be Universal. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't seen a Transformers movie in theaters since Transformers 2.
I'm trying to remember. I'm looking it up right now. Paramount.
Oh, Paramount. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So, and Hasbro Studios.
Interesting. Okay, so Paramount has those. How cool would it be to get a Star Trek Transformers crossover?
Dude, that would be,
because those are both Universal, right?
Well, no, Star Trek.
Sorry, I don't mean. I'm sorry, not Universal. Paramount.
Yeah,
those are both Paramount. So, like, that would be interesting to see. you know,
that would
one of the planets they go to do is what's the planet called? Unicron, or planet Cybertron, or something.
Unicron is the enemy that they face. That's like the other half of evil, and Cybertron's like the good side is what it's kind of supposed to be. They did a show on it.
Huh. Oh, interesting.
But I forget which one it was, but there was a show that was amazing. But they've had so many different Transformers shows.
Sure.
But they could go to one of those and, meet up, and obviously the Transformers can fly through space, no problem, because they can breathe in space.
Right.
That's definitely no sweat. I'm trying to look up for G.I. Joe. I'm really curious if it is Paramount.
I would think that it was.
But it's not. All right, here we go. It is Paramount.
Paramount, perfect. So there we go. So it's a very strong possibility that at some point we're going to see G.I. Joe and Transformers crossing over if they can at least launch a successful G.I. Joe movie franchise.
Which that could be interesting because they're going the millennial route, is what they said. Which, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really quite sure exactly what that means. Like, does it mean that Roadblock, instead of carrying big giant guns, is just carrying like a really dope smartphone?
And he's taking pictures of every single meal.
Right, yeah. He's like, here's my latte. Coming straight at you from Azerbaijan. Like, okay. Cool.
Do these skinny jeans make my butt look good?
He's like, all right, fellas, I gotta go work out and get swole. Fucking millennials, man. Shit.
Dude, that would be hilarious.
Roadblock.
Could you see that?
And he's all rhyming. I can't even think of a word that rhymes with swole right now. Hole? Like, I can't.
Hole?
Yeah, hole.
I got so swole because I don't know.
Put steroids up my hole? No, I don't. Yeah, it's not going to work.
Wow. Yeah, let's stop there so we don't, really
offend anyone else. Alienate half of
not
our
offend
audience
anyone
of
else,
millennials.
just make ourselves look that stupid.
Look that old.
Yeah.
People are like, wow, these guys are way out of touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we had one of the big crossovers. They weren't the greatest, but they were interesting. Alien vs. Predator.
Yeah.
They did that. That was an interesting one. So, there's the possibilities, but yeah, it would be cool. Transformers and, Star Trek, and then, you could even bring in G.I. Joe with that.
Yeah.
And they go back to Earth, and G.I. Joe's the ground, team and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of possibilities with that. What about, I don't know, I'm trying to think of other good ones that they could do. Of course, everyone wants to see an actual Marvel DC crossover, but that's no.
I don't think that'll ever. Obviously we've seen movie studios work together and stuff, but you can't do that movie with both studios involved because someone's going to have to win and someone's going to have to lose. And they actually did a comic back in 2003 or 4, maybe 2005, that was Justice League and Avengers, and it was a 4-part crossover with artwork from George Perez, and I want to say like Marv Wolfman wrote it, because these were like big name guys back in the in the glorious heyday, the 70s and 80s and stuff. These were just like really well known, beloved creators and stuff, and they had a knack for big team books and everything. So it was really boring, and it wasn't very good. It was the typical formula where it's like the one hero meets up with the other hero, but they don't know each other, so they just immediately don't trust each other, and they fight for an issue before they realize, oh, wait a minute, we're both fighting these bad guys, but these bad guys have teamed up, so we'll team up, and then, the typical thing, and like that's the kind of movie that we would have to get. Mm-hmm. And like it's just boring, like unless we're going to actually see like Wolverine slicing off Batman's hand and Superman just like melting off Iron Man's face. But, like, we would never see that in a movie.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not going to happen. I mean, it's definitely something. I mean, it would be cool, but yeah, it won't. I'm just trying to think of anything else. I mean, what about... What about, like... X-Men and the Suicide Squad?
It's a possibility. I think
that'd be interesting.
Fox might be like more likely to partner up or something, and I wonder if it would be in their contract, like they wouldn't be allowed to be in a movie with characters from another universe or something. But that would be interesting.
Yeah. One
thing that we can get with Sony being the home of all the the future Valiant stuff is like a Valiant Ghostbusters crossover, Valiant Comics and Ghostbusters. Like that would be kind of interesting, like Harbinger Ghostbusters kind of crossover.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Definitely. I mean, I'm trying to think other than that. I mean, really, who else would you want to see that crosses over? What about? I mean, what about actually taking Batman and the Turtles into the movie universe or TV show?
Yeah, that would be really cool.
I
wouldn't mind seeing. I mean, I know that Turtles is on Nickelodeon because Nickelodeon owns them now, and I know that like Young Justice is supposed to be on Cartoon Network, or if it comes back, and if it doesn't come back on Cartoon Network, it would be like a Netflix original type thing instead.
Yeah,
but that like. I wouldn't mind seeing a Ninja Turtles Young Justice crossover, if only because the Ninja Turtles are, teenagers, and Young Justice is teenagers as well, or even like Ninja Turtles Titans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be cool.
That'd be pretty good. You're like, you'd get, you'd have Dick and Leonardo, and they'd be good friends, and you get like Beast Boy and Michelangelo, and they'd be good friends, and you get Donatello and Cyborg together.
That'd be cool combo.
And then you would get Raphael and Raven would hit it off because they're both sourpusses and everything, and then you get like Starfire and April O'Neil.
Yeah.
And they would all just hang out and stuff and be friends. I just think that would be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be a good little twist that we would see.
Yeah.
Or just them. What about like Casey Jones? Who would he be good with?
Yeah, Casey Jones would have to team up with someone at least. They'd have to bring in another character. At that point, I would bring in Casey Jones, and I'd have him team up with Speedy.
That would be cool.
Or Arsenal, whatever you want to call him. I'm talking, Roy.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like they're both kind of bad boys, but they're not quite as bad because Raphael and like Raven are the two like bad ones on the team. So they would be kind of the outsider bad ones.
Yeah. That would be interesting, definitely.
Could you ever have Casey and Raven teaming up, and then April getting all jealous?
She gets all pissed off.
All jealous and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So why are you hanging out with the hot, demon girl?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool. That would definitely be cool. I don't know. Can you think of any other ones? I really. What about like doing? I don't know, Transformers, or doing like Planet of the Apes and G.I. Joe.
Ooh, yeah, that would just be weird, That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Make something really out of this world, like you wouldn't really expect at all.
Like,
kind of like the Planet of the Apes and Green Lantern that they have,
Yeah. No, that would be really fun to see. Something sci-fi and something fantasy, like Lord of the Rings crossover with like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It just makes absolutely zero freaking sense.
But it would be freaking amazing. I mean, just amazing. Or Transformers and the and all the Godzilla, King Kong, Pacific Rim, the Jaeger and all them involved.
That'd be pretty cool. Any of the any kind of mech crossovers would be fun, just because you get to see the mechs, mechs fighting other mechs.
Yeah.
Can you imagine like an army of Transformers? You got like Optimus and Bumblebee, and I can't think of any others. Sorry, I'm not a Transformers guy, but 10 Transformers, 15 Transformers going up against like the Megazord.
Mm-hmm.
Or like two of
Dude,
the, or like
sick.
a couple of Jaegers going up against the Megazord or something, or even like Voltron coming in and fighting some Jaegers or something like that.
I was gonna say Voltron and Power Rangers. Come on,
yeah. I mean
that's what
that one's
need.
A no-brainer.
Yeah.
They've color coded and everything.
Yeah.
That one's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Same kind of capabilities. And like obviously the Voltron team would be jealous because all of their bots are lions, but the Power Rangers have like different bots. But then the Power Rangers would be jealous because of like how the Voltron is like separate but different, and they have like separate capabilities and stuff.
Mm-hmm. That would be sick.
Yeah.
What about the one of the other ones that makes sense, and yes, the true nerds will get pissed off beyond belief.
The Star ones?
Yeah. I mean, because they would so get pissed off, and you would be like, it only makes sense. And Star Trek, Star Wars. I mean...
Yeah. See, to me, Star Trek and Star Wars, not necessarily, because, Star Trek is grounded in science, and Star Wars is more of a fantastical story. But one that would work and would be really interesting, I think, would be Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica. Because both of those take place, in the real universe. They both take place in a universe where Earth exists and there are humans and everything. Can you imagine if, like, the Cylons and the Borg got together?
Oh, shit. That'd be crazy.
So then the Borg...
That would be...
So the Borg is able to assimilate technology where they are able to look human. Where they're actually able to assimilate their technology underneath the skin of people rather than merging it to the outside. So they're the Borg, they're the hive mind, they have all this technology, but it's concealed inside of the person's body rather than, attached to the outside or whatever. Like, that would be creepy.
But it would be sick.
Yeah.
I would definitely not mind seeing that. Not at all.
You get a pissing contest between Starbuck and Kirk. Well, I guess if I'm talking Borg, it would be more like a pissing contest between Starbuck and Riker,
Or, yeah. Well, because it's, if you're thinking about it, what's his name? It's Locutus.
Yeah, Locutus of the Borg,
Locutus of the Borg. Oh, Lord. So, any other ones that you can think of? I mean, really, we could go on and on, but I don't want to go on and on and on and on.
Well, you could. You got to think we have to edit out like 10 minutes of this. So
True.
We're not quite at where it looks like we're at.
So, I can't think of any other big ones that we could really do for a crossover. I mean...
No, I mean, there's stuff everywhere. Like, it would be cool to see something that's like car-based.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a Dukes of Hazzard crossover with like Knight Rider.
Dude, that would be interesting.
Or just,
that'd be pretty cool.
Any kind of thing like that. Yeah. Or even like, a Gotham City, like GCPD sort of a show. And it crosses over with like Hawaii Five-0 or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be pretty sick. I mean, how about G.I. Joe and the A-Team?
See, there you go. I like it.
That would be a good one.
That would be pretty good. That'd be pretty good.
Or...
The A-Team and Prison Break.
Baywatch and the Green Lanterns. Sorry, I had to throw out something weird.
Yeah, that one would be
and
really
I was just
weird.
like, that would be really
that one
odd.
Would be really weird.
I don't know how you would do that, get it to work. I'm sure you could find some way.
Well, I mean, Hal Jordan's from Coast City, isn't he?
True.
So
True.
It's the Baywatch of Coast City and Baywatch of wherever the hell Baywatch is from.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be... Well, Baywatch is California, isn't it?
Probably. I have no idea.
I believe.
I watched Baywatch for one reason, and that was like 3 different times, and that was it. It was like a little bit before. It was a little bit before my time. I wasn't really quite at that age yet where that sort of thing interested me when it was on, but like I definitely saw some reruns a few times and was like, this is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I'm digging this. What about Goonies and Stranger Things?
That would be a cool one. Add in a little Gremlins with it.
Ooh. Gremlins and Goonies would be pretty good.
Yeah. That would be a good combination. Of course, all of the younger audience that listening to this podcast are like, who? Gremlins. Goonies. Huh? I know Stranger Things.
Yeah. What about Terminator and Deadpool?
That could be a very cool one. I would love to see Lobo and Deadpool.
Yeah.
That would be
pretty
awesome.
Cool. That would be pretty cool.
I think the two, because Lobo's kind of similar to Deadpool as the anti-hero type character.
Yeah, the anti-hero doesn't really give, 2 shits or anything like that. Yeah. I don't know if he does any of the wall breaking that Deadpool does.
True. Yeah. What about... We have...
RoboCop and Time Cop.
You're really reaching now.
Nah, dude, no way, man.
You're really reaching. Trying to think of some good video game ones. Because we really haven't dove into video
game crossovers.
We could do
Skyrim
Transformers and Mario.
Transformers and Mario. That'd be fun. I like
Skyrim and Zelda.
Voltron and Mario would be pretty cool. You see Mario piloting the Voltron up there with Lance and everything.
Yeah. Do Gears of War and G.I. Joe. That would be pretty sick. Could you see a couple of the G.I. Joe characters with the big lancer that has the chainsaw on the end of it? That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, sucks for Cobra.
Yeah, no shit. Halo and Star Trek.
Halo and Metroid.
That would be a good one,
where it's like Master Chief and Samus are teamed up and shit.
And by the end, they've got Master Chief and Samus babies.
Ooh, here we go.
A super, soldier and Samus. That would be an interesting baby.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to see the love scene. That could be, I don't know.
But we wouldn't have to see it. What about like Metroid and
You would,
Iron Man? You know, like
you see Master Chief with the helmet still on throughout the whole sex scene.
yeah, do it with marionettes like Team America. Two little naked marionettes, but then Master Chief's got his helmet on and Samus has her helmet on.
Yeah.
That took a left turn.
Yeah, no kidding. We just went into making our own porn.
But,
Here comes back the casting couch.
Yeah. What about like Kirby and Crash Bandicoot?
That could be cool. Could definitely be cool. I mean, what about Zelda and Tomb Raider?
I think Link would be like, "What the fuck is this thing? I just squeeze this and it shoots this little metal thing."
You're like, what? Why? What? Yeah. Shit, I can't think of. Really, I mean,
Star Fox and Halo Wars.
That could be interesting. What about what's a good one that would go with Assassin's Creed?
Assassin's Creed, a good one. Now, Assassin's Creed, is that an exclusive, or is that like PlayStation and Xbox?
It's PlayStation and Xbox.
Well, I guess that makes because it's Ubisoft, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Assassin's Creed. And
I don't know.
Kid Icarus.
A little boy with wings and all these assassins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Metroid and Assassin's Creed would be pretty cool.
That'd be pretty sick. The space assassins.
Yeah, where they have to like take Samus and plug her into that one thing.
Yeah.
What is the thing called?
Shit, I can't remember. It's been so long since I played a Metroid game.
No, I mean in Assassin's Creed.
Oh, in Assassin's Creed. Oh, into the Animus?
Yeah, the Animus. Take Samus and plug her into the Animus. It'll be Animus Samus.
Plug her into her anus?
Samus Animus.
That would be an interesting one, too. I mean, I'm just looking around my room because I got a lot of crossover stuff already.
Random shit everywhere.
Yeah, just all over. Like I'm looking, I have Family Guy and The Walking Dead, picture up there. We have the Turtles as stormtroopers. There is the stormtroopers helmets done as the Avengers. X-Men and the Transformers would be an interesting one. Or they have another here where it's a crossover of all kinds. It looks like we've got Transformers, we have Hulk, we have the Turtles. Looks like Spider-Man, Batman, Conan. I can't even see some of the characters, they're so small. Predator. Wolverine. Oh, that's not Spider-Man. That looks like Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe.
Oh, nice.
And then some really hairy dude with long blonde hair.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know who the hell he is. That would be a very interesting movie. You'd probably have to be on crack to write that. So, who knows? Well, I guess enough rambling on this one. We've talked enough about what we kind of would, some ideas. Let us know in the comments below what your ideas are of some good crossovers, any ones that we missed or any ones that have already happened that we didn't really talk about, because there's been a lot. I mean, there has been a lot. A couple things. One, if you're listening on iTunes, please Drop us a review. Let us know how we're doing. We want to know. We want to improve and see what we can do to make this better. Plus get out to more of an audience and all that, and see, get more people listening to us. So please, drop us that review. With YouTube, hit that like and follow down below. Yes, this is the audio only. Hopefully sooner than later we'll be back to a video feed. But we'll see. It depends. Also, something new. We have a Patreon. Oh,
yeah.
You like the light shining down?
Yeah.
So if you go to Patreon, and it is www.patreon.com/nerdology5280, and you can support us. We have just 2 levels right now to begin. We got $1 a month and $5 a month. And different little goals that you can get, little special things. I'll be adding more as time goes on, asking for Ryan's input, on what we should kind of do with some of the different little levels and whatnot, as people donate more to us. And some of it is going to be charity-based. We will be getting some charity-based donation levels into it. So please go help us out. That means we can get better equipment. Maybe we can throw a couple bucks Ryan's way to help him get some, better equipment on his end for lighting and stuff like that. We can make it a really good video. Hey, if we get enough, we can do this on a conference call type thing live, where people can tune in and see us, and we can record it and have the video out. And yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah. Also, the rest of the social media, all the goodness there between Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, MySpace. Yes, he's still got the MySpace there.
Yeah.
That's all down below. So please go check that out if, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you go to listen to your heart's desire. Please go check that out. As for upcoming podcasts, we have another Nerd to the Roundtable coming up in a week and a half, because we just dropped our last one, episode 25. That is going to be International Tabletop Day, so it's going to be a little bit different. I don't know if we'll be live. I'm thinking, what we're going to do, but it's going to be, the audio is going to be different. We're still going to do an audio podcast. We'll still talk nerd stuff, but it's going to be kind of like when we were playing Super Fight. Ooh, which we got to play that. Play some Super Fight that day too. And stuff like that. So it's not going to be quite what you would expect for the audio version, but the week after is Free Comic Book Day. So tune into that. We are going to be changing the format for Nerds around a little bit, making it more of a roundtable discussion. Kind of what we leaned towards on the last episode. As for Unleashing, we have our Guardians of the Galaxy movie preview next week. The week after, we're going to dive into a good story arc for Guardians. And then the week after, we'll have our review. So.
Sweet.
Yeah, all kinds of goodness. And of course, Blow on This is once a month, so the next one's not for about 3 weeks, but it's going to happen around the beginning of every month. We might have 2 in June. I don't know. Stay tuned. But please go check out Blow on This. As always, though, please don't forget to unleash your inner nerd, and you will hear from us next week. Peace.